Rampage.
Hey guys, this is Wisper, coming at you with an Oracle video. I know we like IO on this channel. I've been playing a lot of Oracle lately. I need a little bit of variation. And honestly, between all the buffs that IO's gotten in the past 9 months, Oracle's gotten a lot of, between all the nerfs IO's gotten, Oracle's gotten a lot of nice buffs. So he's a really nice hero to play, and I really want to show you guys this gameplay because there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this game, a lot of great uses of Oracle's various combos, and I really just want to show it off and show you guys what you can do with this hero. Before doing anything, I want to give a quick rundown of his different spells and the different ways that then you can use them, because honestly that's the most complex part of the hero, and I want to break that down very, very quickly for everyone before the gameplay really kicks in. I'm going to talk about the 4 spells of Oracle at the bottom. They all have 2-word names, and in that sense they're going to become very, very complicated very, very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use numbers to talk about the spells. Alright? Left to right, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Q, W, E, and R. We have Fortune's End, Fate's Edict, Purifying Flames, and False Promise. So as you can see, that's going to be a mouthful and a nightmare, so I'm going to try and use numbers to keep people up to date. What we have first is we have Fortune's End, number 1. Fortune's End and all of Oracle's spells are dual functionality. They each have 2 different main functions when they hit, and in that way they can be used for different things. They can be cast, almost all of his spells can be cast on both allies as well as enemies, and in that sense they have different interactions in both of those ways. Fortune's End has 2 main interactions. The first, as you can see here, is a channel. Is a channel that turns into a root. The longer that you channel the spell, the longer the enemy is rooted. And this can serve multiple functions. While it's not a true interrupt, like a stun, it allows you to pin down enemy heroes that are great at escaping. And a lot of the way root is defined gives you a lot of benefits. Anti-mage cannot blink out of a root. I'm pretty sure Mirana cannot leap out of a root, although I do not think Juggernaut understands this. I'm able to get the first kill, which I was very proud of there, and leads me into his the other functionality of the spell. Fortune's End is a root, but it also has a purge function. You can cast it on yourself to get rid of enemy debuffs, like an axe, Berserker's Rage. Is that what it's called? Or a Urn of Shadows debuff, or dust, or anything like that. Any debuff that you have can be removed, or a teammate, and secondarily, any buffs that the enemy has can also be removed, such as Ember Spirit, his Flame Guard, that the AoE damage shield, that can be taken off, a lot of different other buffs, Sven's Warcry, etc. The idea, and Oracle's main damage combo, involves that idea alongside the 3rd spell, Purifying Flames. Purifying Flames, again, has 2 functionalities upon hit. The first is that you take a bunch of damage. It's Oracle's main damage dealing spell, and you take a lot. At level 4 it hits for 360 magic damage, which is one of the strongest nukes in the game, and it's on a 2.5 second cooldown, I believe. So just based off those numbers alone, you guys can see there's a lot of room for doing some creative things there. The second function of Fortune's End, even I'm getting confused now. The second function of Purifying Flames, number 3, is that when it hits, you gain healing over time. It's done in such a way that if you do not remove the healing buff from the enemy or ally, they will gain far more health than damage dealt. And if you cast Purifying Flames, or number 3, on an enemy, and you do not remove that buff, you have helped the enemy. They will take X amount of damage, but they will take way more than X in HP gained over the next 9 or 10 seconds. So Oracle's main damage combo is to hit your enemy with Purifying Flames, number 3. You deal a bunch of damage to them, and before the healing buff has been able to take long enough to start healing, you follow up with Fortune's End, number 1. And in that way, you hit them for a large amount of burst damage, and then you follow up with a little more damage, but more importantly, a purge that removes the healing buff that you just gave to the enemy by hitting them with Purifying Flames. And in that way, you have a very powerful combo. You're able to pin the enemy, you're able to hit them with a large amount of damage, as you see, and you're able to use that burst damage spell again 2.5 seconds later as a follow-up / finishing spell. So the real way to play Oracle is to get your enemy to low enough health that you can hit them with number 3, number 1, and then number 3 again. And that second number 3, that will kill them. The other spell of Oracle, number 2, is called Fate's Edict, and that again has 2 functions. The first is that it blocks magic damage 100%. It's like a BKB. Any magic spell, you'll still be hit by the spell, but you'll not take any damage from it. And the second is that it will disarm the player that has been blocked by the disarm and the magic block are simultaneous and last for the same time on the same target. So if you hit an Ursa to block him from being able to attack you, he will also not be able to take magic damage from your team. And in that way, you have to be careful in team fights to not cast that on enemies. And then your entire team uses all their big magic spell ultimates, and no damage actually gets dealt. But here you can actually see I would have survived right here if I had turned around and just disarmed the Lich. He had used his big burst damage spell. All he had left to do was melee attack me to kill me, which he did. And all I had to do was turn around and cast Fate's Edict on him, and he wouldn't have been able to attack me for 3 seconds, and I could have just walked away, and I would have been fine. But therein lies the real true skill of Oracle, is because you have so many different spells that have so many different functions, you have to understand the best way to play them in any given situation. For instance, what you just saw on the screen was a skill that only Oracle can do. You can deny your own ranged creep when you hit Purifying Flames level 3. The damage that you do from Purifying Flames obviously hurts the creep a lot, doesn't kill it, and over time the creep will regen back to full health. But what you are able to do is you are able to get the creep into deny range, and you're able to quickly follow up with a deny. And this is insane, because this is a repetitive... You can do this to every single creep wave that walks down your lane after 6.5 minutes, consistently taking away the most important creep from the creep wave, which is the ranged creep. I want to stop for a sec and sort of show what I was talking about earlier with the magic damage block that comes out of these different spells. What we're seeing here is that Mirana gets a big arrow off onto Juggernaut, but I'm able to block a lot of that magic damage that came from the Starstorm by getting off a good Fate's Edict, number 2. And then, as all the enemy chases, I charge up a little number 1, Fortune's End, and everyone in a little AoE is rooted. None of them can chase, and Juggernaut gets away scot-free. And not only that, I set him up for a great kill on Mirana as well. So yeah, all in all, that's the skill of Oracle. It's trying to understand the best combination of the 15 different things he can do in the best moment to use them. I think that is very exciting because there's a lot of skill and mastery in there. There's a lot of depth to that, and that's what Io was. Io was a big pool of depth of how to best play this hero and how to get more expansive at it. And I think Oracle is in the same ballpark. You're able to heal people. You're able to save others. You're able to do a lot of magic burst damage, and people don't know how you play. People don't have a good understanding of how these complex heroes work. They kind of see them in action, but they don't understand the details, and the devil's in the details. So I think there's a lot of fun opportunity here. I want to kind of talk now just about the gameplay as it happens, because there's definitely errors that I make, and a big one is coming up. As we see here, I try and do my standard damage combo, but I screw it up. I start with my Fortune's End, and I'm not able to get a Purifying Flames off, a number 3 off on Mirana, by the time number 1 would hit him. The idea being here that you can start Fortune's End, and as the orb of Fortune's End is flying towards the enemy, you can hit the enemy with number 3. And it is a guaranteed that your Fortune's End will remove the healing buff immediately as long as Purifying Flames hits first. And in what you just saw is Fortune's End hit first. So I purged the enemy and did a little bit of damage, but he had no buffs, so that didn't matter. Then I hit him with a big burst damage spell, but I couldn't remove the healing. And he stood there, man-fighting me, healing. So I had to do the only thing I could do, which was use False Promise. And False Promise is your save spell. False Promise says that you do not take damage for 8, 9, 10 seconds. And at the end of False Promise, you take all of that damage in one fell swoop. The kicker is all healing that's done in False Promise is doubled. Again, given at the end in one fell swoop. And the idea is that you can basically use False Promise as a time to aggressively heal somebody, or including yourself, and you can survive normal damage that would kill you. So in that fight, I basically had to False Promise and try and heal myself and get my way out of the fight, because I ultimately screwed up. Now that you see me bottom, I would have been able to finish off that Slark if he had stayed in range. I had been able to get off my combo, and I had gotten him low enough that I could have used number 3 as a finisher, but he broke line of sight. But here you see me back up to take away his ranged creep. Not only does he not get the XP and the gold from that creep, but it's guaranteed now that our wave is being pulled back towards our tower, which makes his positioning a little bit more difficult. I mean, Nature's Prophet wasn't even paying attention there. I honestly should have saved him, but ultimately I end up saving myself for the pudge. And this interaction here was actually the best possible way this could have played out. Unfortunately, not for pudge there, but sorry, my game clicked in. What you guys saw there was the main reason why Urn of Shadows is the number 1 item for Oracle in the game. Let me describe False Promise again in a way that really shows that. False Promise says, you do not take damage for 8 seconds. Urn of Shadows says, as long as you don't take damage, I will heal you aggressively up to 8 seconds. And in that sense, you literally, I think there may be an interaction with the ultimate of Shadow Demon, but I think it is almost impossible to remove a Urn of Shadows or Spirit Vessel healing buff from a player that's False Promised, because you don't take damage until the end, and all healing is doubled. So you get a complete doubling of an entire Spirit Vessel healing charge through the end of 8 seconds. And God forbid you actually follow up and do healing with your Purifying Flames, or you heal through a different method like your wand or something to like that effect. So yeah, here I make a really stupid misplay, and I'm really upset about this. My False Promise was on 6 seconds of cooldown. All I had to do was lose them in the jungle for 6 seconds. I could have False Promised, and I could have just TP'd out. A False Promise lasts for 8 seconds. A TP lasts for 3. They don't have a stun. I would have had a 100%, and then I would have healed in the fountain for 5 seconds. It would have been doubled to the equivalent of 10 seconds of healing, and I would have survived 100%. So that panic that you saw on the screen, that is nothing but embarrassing, because honestly, I had a complete win in there, and I just screwed it up. Want to talk just for a moment about, you saw me just hit level 10 and I got the 25 XP talent. The idea here is that leveling up Oracle is really difficult because he's a support. Second, you gain additional XP from when you're denying these ranged creeps, getting an additional 25% on top of that's pretty great. And then tertiarily, you gain a 150 GPM talent at level 15, the sooner you can hit 15, the sooner you can start gaining gold consistently every minute, and the sooner you can get closer to your end game like item core. So going for the plus 25 XP talent is really excellent. The downfall of Oracle's talents are very clear because they only augment one portion of one of his skills. The other level 10 talent for Oracle is that you increase the time that you can channel number 1, Fortune's End, up to 3.5 seconds. And that means you can pin the enemy for up to 3.5 seconds. It doesn't affect the purge. It doesn't affect the cooldown. It doesn't affect anything about the spell other than the ability to potentially pin people longer. It's not that good. It's not that interesting. What's the one... at level 15 is plus 150 GPM and... Ooh, I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, long story short, a lot of his talents end up in such a way that choosing the one that only focuses on one individual talent is normally the one that is a mistake. But yeah, secondarily, the items that I'm going for. I've basically got my basic items together. I have an Urn of Shadows, I have a stick, and I have brown boots. And the idea here is that I've built into arcane boots, but I will soon disassemble them when I finish up an Aether Lens. And the idea here is that Oracle does everything from his mana, everything from his spells. He heals from his mana, he does damage from his mana, he saves from his mana, he purges from his mana. Everything is based on his mana and increasingly also his cast range. So as you can see here, a really great example of a great combo, being able to finish off the monkey, false promise myself, get an immediate urn charge off on myself so I'm healing to full, and just run away from the fight. I even do my basic healing combo on myself, which is to use Fate's Edict, number 2, and then hit myself with Purifying Flames, number 3, and I'm able to gain double Purifying Flames during the false promise. Here you guys can see that I have finished off my range and my sort of main mana item. Being able to deal damage from farther, heal from farther, purge from farther. This is a really great item. In fact, let me talk about, because I've suddenly realized what the level 15 talent was, and it makes a lot of sense. One of the reasons I go for Aether Lens is because the other level 15 talent, alongside the 120 GPM talent, is that you get 150 cast range. Aether Lens gives you 250 cast range. And the idea here is that if you go Aether Lens, which is arguably and without question, cast range is very, very powerful for Oracle. So by going for this 250, which is stronger than your level 15 talent, it frees you up to get the GPM talent at 15. You're not pressured by relying on that completely weaker talent portion. You don't have to rely on a weaker talent in order to get your cast range, where you can get it from an item that benefits you as well, and frees you up to start gaining a lot of gold very, very early in the game. My next item that you guys are going to see me go for is Spirit Vessel, for all the main reasons that we talked about earlier, right? False Promise allows you to get extra healing. Having a stronger guaranteed healing spell is going to mean that rather than gaining like 500 or 600 health in a False Promise, I'm going to gain like 1,000 health from a single urn charge, a single Spirit Vessel charge. Secondarily, and almost more importantly, and far less talked about, which is almost goddamn criminal, Spirit Vessel is the only item in the game that blocks the healing on your enemy. And what is the main downside of Purifying Flames other than it heals your enemy? So if you're able to put a Spirit Vessel debuff on an enemy player, you can start wailing on them with multiple Purifying Flames in a row. Remember, it's on a 2.5 second cooldown. And you're not going to get punished by healing them aggressively for more damage than you've dealt them, because they're blocked by 70% of their healing. So Spirit Vessel and Urn, once again, the most important items for Oracle without question. In the beginning of every single game, I will spam, I will alt-click Earn in the store, and that spams to my team. I will buy Urn of Shadows, I will buy Urn of Shadows. And I do that a good 15 times every single game, and then I add a little thanks. Because it's really, really important to not have somebody else get this on your team, because these Urn charges, Spirit Vessel charges, are literally you and your team's lifeline, and ultimately in the end game a big part of your damage output. The way that you're really able to amp up your damage, you don't have to go 3-1 and then finish with a 3. You can hit them with Spirit Vessel and go 3-3-3-1, 3-3-3-1. And in that way put out a lot more damage a lot faster. And then, yeah, ultimately for the level 20 talent, I think this is a bit more versatile because False Promise only has one main function, and that's to save people. You can use it both offensively and defensively, but it has the same function both times. And the level 20 talent, you get a choice between going for plus 50 speed, or no, 65 speed, and the other is when you use False Promise, the person who is False Promise gains invisibility for the duration of the buff, which is 8, 9, 10 seconds at levels 1, 2, 3. But there's some important factors here. I actually want to talk about this first because I decided like an idiot that I False Promise and I healed, and I want to man fight an Oracle. I want to man fight a Slark even though I had been laser beamed. Didn't even realize it. So that was another mistake. I should have just walked away. I should have TP'd out. I had some options there, and I decided to be ballsy because I had a good game, and I died for it. So don't copy that. I think that going for the False Promise and Invis talent is totally viable. What I personally like going for is the plus 60 movement speed talent, and then I get Boots of Travel. And the idea here is that movement speed is not something that players often build around. It's not a concept. I want to have really high armor. I want to have really great regen. I want to have really great move speed. It's just not. It's not in the main core focus of Dota 2 players. But with this Oracle build, you gain plus 50 movement speed from the Boots of Travel. You gain 65 from your talent. So that's well over 100 right there. And then you're already walking around with an extra 20 from Spirit Vessel. So you quickly move up to almost 500 move speed, if not a little bit over 500 move speed. I think you're closer to 510. And when you're hasted in the game, you have a haste rune, you're moving at 550. So what this means is you're able to do things with your hero, and you're able to maneuver out of situations that don't really feel possible because you are physically just outrunning everybody in the game. How are people going to catch up with you? Oh, well, they're probably going to try and slow you down. Oh, surprise, you have a purge that you have like on 6-second cooldown. Oh, they've slowed you down with a diffusal blade, purge it. Oh, they try to hit you with it, purge it. Oh, they're getting you, purge it. Like, it doesn't matter. Oh, they're going to really jump you? Okay, False Promise, heal. Fate's Edict, heal again with Purifying Flames and just walk away. Are they slowing you? Purge it and just walk. Like... it really is. It seems stupidly simple, and the reality is that it is. Like, when you are so fast that nobody can walk up to you and hit you, you have a lot less problems than you did prior. And this is a build, especially if you see what I'm building next, which is Yule Scepter, which will give me another 30 move speed, I believe. We'll be very, very close to hasted. I believe we'll be up in the 530s. And I believe there's actually a great clip that you guys might see coming up where I pick up a haste rune and it basically changes nothing. And I think that's a great example of why this build works. And I also want to point out, by the way, I don't need a high number of items to be versatile. I mean, in a low cost game where I'm not getting gold, and let's just point out, I'm still halfway in my team in terms of gold gain in terms of net worth. But even in a much cheaper game than this, all you really need is Urn of Shadows. That's it. An Urn of Shadows, a stick, and some brown boots, and you should be able to manage for quite a while. A lot of what I don't like to limit myself there. I like to play into the end game and keep myself getting gold and getting XP. And you don't need a lot. Spirit Vessel is a bonus. Getting Aether Lens is a bonus. Boots of Travel is a massive bonus. Yeah. But there's a lot of opportunity there too. There's a lot of things that you can do, and like I said, a lot of things that your opponents just don't understand. One of the things that I want to talk to you guys about is Eul Scepter, because it's something that not a lot of people understand. I mentioned it earlier, I want to talk about it now. Eul Scepter, using Eul Scepter on an enemy and hitting them in the Cyclone, gives the same dispel function that number 1 Fortune's End gives. And basically, your basic damage combo, as we've said before, is to hit them with number 3 and hit them with number 1. And then when you can, do that again. And when you can, do that again. And as soon as they're low enough, hit them with number 3 again and they die. But giving you an additional dispel allows you to chain this combo in a way that normally you have to wait for the cooldown of your Fortune's End in order to do this. But if you have another dispel, you're able to go number 3 Fortune's End. Immediately, number 3 Eul Scepter, and by now your Fortune's End is off cooldown. So immediately, number 3 Fortune's End again. And if you have Spirit Vessel, now you go Spirit Vessel, and then number 3. By now your Fortune's End is off cooldown. Number 1, number 3. And in this way, these item choices have a lot of functionality because they extend this sort of rigorously designed damage combo into something that you can chain into something massive. And we're not even talking about the move speed buff. We're not talking about the mana boost, which Oracle desperately needs. We're not talking about the fact that you can use it on enemies to actually have it interrupt like you would on when you buy it for IO, to be used to stop someone from TPing or a channeling spell or something like that. And I mean, gosh, I have 2 item slots open. If I wanted to go something cheaper, if I wanted to be focusing on wards instead, I have more than enough inventory to do it. And if I never went Boots of Travel, and I was still carrying TP scrolls, I would still have enough room to do other stuff. So definitely leaves you open to have a lot of options. This is really unfortunate because I basically blew my save to get that Juggernaut out, that Ember Spirit out. And as soon as I did that, I didn't have one for myself, and I wasn't able to run out fast enough as I got hit by the start. So yeah, another sad time. Click buyback. Again, not worried about not having a TP because as you guys can see, I'm moving at 533 move speed now that my Eul Scepter has been built. And you guys will see me pick up this haste rune and just watch my move speed here. I'm 533 normal. And now we're 550 haste. Ooh, look at that move speed buff. Ooh, what a big change from 10 seconds ago. Less so to shit on the haste rune and more so to show how powerful this move thing is. Again, another screw up where I basically kill myself by saving somebody else. I blow my false promise on the Juggernaut to free him from the stun, keep him alive, and his immediate response is to use his ultimate, which makes him go invis. And ultimately, I'm the only surviving player, and there's 4 of them around me, and I get murdered pretty quick. So yeah, probably could have reacted a little bit faster. I did have a Eul Scepter. I could have bought myself some time. But yeah, sad times, unfortunately. But I believe, I can't see my score at the moment. Yes, I believe that was my last death. So while it is a little bit long and a little bit unfortunate, it's the last one you guys will be seeing. But I mean, that's the idea. I'm not an Oracle expert. There's a lot of things that I'm seeing, a lot of patterns I'm picking up on. But in those panic moments, to have that perfect understanding of see the combo line in your head and be able to put it into play, that's a real skill. And that's something that takes time and a lot of practice, but ultimately leaves the enemy player being like, what the fuck just happened? I didn't know blank could do that. I didn't know an Oracle could do that. I didn't know an Io could do that. I didn't know an Ember Spirit could do that. I mean, that's why we all watch Miracle, right? Is to see the things that we didn't know could happen. So there's always stuff out there to learn, guys, and yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with this video. Trying to share with you guys a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of combo, a little bit of things that I picked up, and trying to learn this hero. I'm sure I will do a more massive review at some point. I've written a guide on Dota Fire. I'll link it in the description. That sort of gives a verbal and a bit more of a longer version of what I've talked about now. A little bit more math, a little bit more defense of the ideas, etc. Yeah. You can see here that I'm, at this time, and I still am, kind of playing around with the idea of, now that I have a Spirit Vessel, which I do almost every game, Spirit Vessel and Aether Lens are basically your main core items, and after that you can build whatever you want. But now that I have a Spirit Vessel, the idea of having a Aghanim Scepter on Oracle, where I can cast my Purifying Flames #3, need to stop talking because I just want to show how insane the movement speed is here. Just, stop that guy from attacking for 4.5 seconds and just walk away. TP to the other side of the map, heal myself to full, keep on pushing. But the idea here is that if I have an Aghanim Scepter, I'm going to be able to cast my Fortunes at my #3, my Purifying Flames, much faster. And because I have Spirit Vessel, I'll be blocking a lot of the healing that comes from casting it a lot faster. So what combinations can I use here? What things can I do? I can heal. My healing combo advances, my damage combo advances, and there's a lot of plays I can make with having that increased speed. I've played around with Octarine Core quite a bit, and I kind of prefer that item right now, but I'm still trying to fully work out through gameplay practice whether I really like Ags or not. But I was going for it here because I already had the healing debuff option that comes out of Spirit Vessel. Again, I sort of talked all the way through it, but another great example of being able to just walk away from a fight. Slark and Lich chased me halfway across the map, and I just casually, I almost baited them at some point. Like, I sort of just stopped walking just to see if they were still there, and they were, and I just kept on running. But here, great example, right? We're going to False Promise. I'm going to heal myself immediately, so I know I'm being healed by Spirit Vessel. I turn to fight the Slark. I realize I can't do too much, so I start walking to my allies. Pudge is able to scare him off. I healed myself twice, get ballsy, and decide to chase the Slark back, and ultimately just set up a big channeling spell that freaks him out. Still at full health after that whole interaction. And that's one of the nice things. My False Promise ultimate is on such a short cooldown. I just used it in that fight. It's already ready again. It lasts for 10 seconds. It has a 30-second cooldown. So 20 seconds of downtime, I can use it again. And the reality is, being able to stop other players from dying is pretty important. Another great use of my Yule Scepter there. I was able to pin the Mirana mid-leap and set her up for Purifying Flames. If I had caught up to the Slark, that was the plan here too, but I believe he invised and ran out. But yeah, I think the video is basically over. Just wanted to, I thought it was a really fun game. People have often messaged me and basically said, hey man, can you not just post games where you basically crush the enemy the whole time? Like something where it's a little bit closer and maybe you have to come from behind. And this game was pretty close, we had a net worth advantage in the end, but I really had to put in a lot of work to save a lot of allies. I had to get a lot of kills. I set up a lot of stuff, and I got a lot done. As we can see, I mean, I had #1 damage in my team. I was less than 5k damage underneath a Tinker. Not a great Tinker, admittedly, but a Tinker. And yeah, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, a little bit of talking points about Oracle. Check out my guide if you want to learn more. More videos coming soon. Thanks, guys. See ya.